In Venezuela, the fourth cycle of peace talks between the Colombian Government and the National Liberation Army concluded. They agreed on the creation of humanitarian areas at a time when they took stock of the bilateral ceasefire. In Panama, different sectors rallied in protest against the mining contract, the high cost of living, and to demand better working conditions. And in Zimbabwe, President Emmerson Mnangagwa was sworn in for a second term as he promised to lift millions out of poverty. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with news, and we're going to begin in Venezuela because the government of Colombia and the National Liberation Army closed the fourth cycle of peace talks in Caracas. They are seeking a negotiated solution to the international conflict. This phase of the dialogue began on August 14th under the premise that civil society's participation in the process and in paramount transformation is key for peace and a national agreement. Among the most important agreements of this process is the creation of the National Participation Committee installed on August 3rd and the 6-month bilateral ceasefire in Colombia, which came into effect on the same day. As for the bilateral national and temporary ceasefire, it implies implementing the monitoring and verification mechanism to prevent incidents, solve problems, reduce the intensity of the conflict, and improve the humanitarian situation of the population.
To provide guarantees to enforce the ceasefire, to promote and encourage the participation of society in the processes that are being developed, and we're going to start something a little new, which is to make some urgent basic changes. That is, we're not going to say that the structural problems will be solved, but at least we're going to address more urgent social development issues.
The head of the ELN delegation, Pablo Beltran, stated that the changes taking place in Colombia are aimed at democratizing the country.
These are changes towards a democratization of the country. Aware of this moment, agreements have been made in this year of work and especially in this fourth cycle. But unfortunately, as Roberto del Ebono said now, in this first month of the ceasefire, we have to state that the ceasefire has been under fire. In what sense? There has been a very intense media campaign by the big media, by the big communication companies, trying to hinder this process. There have also been severe attacks on the communities.
In Venezuela, the head of the Colombian Government delegation, Oti Patiño, stressed that the dialogues bring them closer to peace.
In this fourth cycle, which is the third one, we have been 3 times in Caracas. In the first cycle, which took place in a hotel on the heights of the Guaraíra Répano, the second was an emergency meeting we had here in Caracas, and the third meeting is this one. In this fourth cycle, we've reached some agreements that bring us much closer to the peace we all want.
In turn, the delegates stressed that as peace becomes territorial, new and powerful dynamics will emerge that will challenge previous hierarchies.
To the extent that peace becomes a territorial reality, that is, to the extent that it becomes a living peace, to that extent, it will break the intentions of those who are moving and shaping it, who are those of us who are here at the dialogue table and even here in the High Council for Peace. Powerful dynamics will emerge that should shake the bureaucratic parsimony and call into question the pre-established hierarchies.
In Panama, the Single Union of Construction Workers and other social organizations marched nationwide against the concession of the mining contract. The demonstrators closed several of the main roads in the capital city of Panama. The demonstrations reject the approval of Bill number 1043 that establishes the contract between the Panamanian state and the mining company in Panama. According to leaders, the mobilization seek to show their dissatisfaction with the high cost of living, demand decent wages, and reject the parametric reforms in the Social Security Fund.
We are supporting the comrades of Soundtracks in part of the plan of action that was agreed on Saturday at the meeting of leaders of the United People. We call on the Panamanian people for the march that will take place tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the afternoon from Porras Park to the Assembly. The people are clear. The one who is not clear is the government. The people say no to this mining contract. The people say no to this unconstitutional contract that devastates our flora, fauna, and damages our rivers. No to the mine, yes to life.
Soundtracks Youth and Sports Undersecretary criticizes government policies to continue mining in the Caribbean country.
Good morning, comrades. We are in the area of 50th Street following the plan of action of Saturday in the meeting of leaders based in Panama. The youth of Soundtracks says present against this mining contract, against the high cost of living, against the high cost of electricity and gasoline, against all these neoliberal policies of the PRD government. We are here today in the streets demanding not to the mining contract. We invite the Panamanian population and the youth to the great march that will be developing from the Porras Park to the Assembly. Panama is worth more without mining. There is no victory without struggle.
While the economic war against Venezuela harmed many households, this new scenario made retired chemistry teacher Rosa rethink her possibilities and talents. She took academia knowledge and her crafting skills and turned her apartment into a laboratory, factory, and family enterprise at the same time, and today her cleaning products compete in local markets. Let's know more about her story, thanks to the following material by our colleagues Adriana Sivori and Marcos da Silva.
Through our social networks, we received a message from a retired teacher.
I invite you to learn about our products, how we make them and how we produce them.
Among so many buildings, Rosa guides us to her property. In a 72 square meters apartment, she installed a handicraft factory with all the corresponding permits.
In 2016, with the economic war, there were so many queues to get flour, butter, milk, all those things. It was horrible, so I told my husband at that time, let's produce cleaning products because we are getting hit.
They started with just personal hygiene products. In 7 years, they established a whole workshop. Together with her niece, they prepared the orders. The accuracy in the combination of ingredients is the key to a perfect elaboration. The coconut oil for toilet soap. Angie already knew the business, but joined her aunt's enterprise.
As the demand for the product increased, she needed more help, more hands on deck. So here I am to support her in packaging part and soap production. We share the tasks, we collaborate well, and we are not fearful of the problems that may arise. We always look for a way to turn things around and keep on going.
The pandemic opened a new world. They collaborated with the community, they taught, they sterilized environments. Chlorine and disinfectants were in those years, and still are, some of their star products.
I am chemistry teacher, so this is easy for me to elaborate all these things. And knowledge is not for oneself. You have to share it with everyone you can. because knowledge has to be transmitted. We Venezuelans, in spite of our weaknesses and difficulties, we always grow.
And Yulimar's trademark seems to keep on growing. The brand of the cleaning artisan can be found in every nearby store.
Marcos da Silva y Adriana Sibori, teleSUR, Caracas.
You can find more episodes of our series Venezuela on the Move in YouTube and other platforms. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. On Monday, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin made in Russia's coastal city of Sochi. Erdogan paid a one-day working visit to Sochi as confirmed by the Turkish office, with the reactivation of the agreement on the Black Sea grain deal as the main topic of the meeting. Additionally, the Turkish and Russian head of state discussed other issues on the regional and global agenda, including bilateral trade, the conflict in Ukraine, and the tensions on the African continent. During a joint press conference, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that Moscow is just weeks away from supplying free grain to 6 African countries after scrapping a deal allowing Ukrainian food export through the Black Sea, and insisted his nation is willing to restart the Black Sea grain deal if Moscow's demands were met, primarily the removal of sanctions. Russia withdrew from the deal on July 17th due to the non-compliance of the West.
Of course, we will not bypass the issues related to the Ukrainian crisis. I know you intend to raise questions about the grain deal. We are open to negotiations on this issue.
For his part, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan stressed the importance of the meeting for the resumption of the Black Sea grain deal.
Of course, the most important step. Today, everyone is looking at the grain corridor issue in the Turkey-Russia relations during this visit. They are waiting to see what will come out from there today regarding the grain corridor. I believe that the message to be given to the world with the press conference after our meeting will be very important, especially a step towards the underdeveloped African countries.
Meeting on energy issues in Sochi. We stay in Russia during a meeting on energy issues in Sochi. President Vladimir Putin said his nation's energy sector is developing successfully despite illegal and endless sanctions against it. Putin added that the Eurasian country was considering speeding up the construction of the Power of Siberia 2 gas pipeline, which will deliver gas to China via Mongolia, as well as accelerating the Far Eastern route to supply gas to China.
By the openly hostile actions of a number of countries, illegal and endless restrictions, sanctions, the Russian fuel and energy complex, our oil and gas companies, feel generally confident, are developing and are successfully solving the tasks that are facing, including in the field of foreign trade. They find new reliable partners, restructured logistics.
The Arab Entities Federation of Latin America started on Monday its 50th Extraordinary Conference, an event that through its organization in the Syrian capital sends a strong message of support to the Syrian people, government and army in the fight they have been waging for more than 12 years against terrorism and its Western sponsors. Let's see the details with our correspondent in Damascus, Hisham Wanos.
50 years after its founding Congress, which took place in Syria in 1973, the Arab Entities Federation of Latin America, in a demonstration of solidarity highly valued by the Syrian leadership and people, is organizing a new extraordinary Congress in the main auditorium of the University of Damascus, marking the centenary of its founding.
I extend the greetings of President Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian leadership, and all the Syrian people to these noble expatriates who did not fail to raise the flag of their motherland in parallel with their integration into the society in the different Latin American countries where they reside. We thank them for working to support the development process in their new countries, and we thank them for not forgetting their countries of origin and the achievements of their people both in Syria and in the other Arab countries. The fact that we are here, 8 FEARAB countries, locals and nationals, grouped in FEARAB America, are in Damascus holding this Congress, is an unconditional support. It is the best proof that we, the Arabs of Latin America, Palestinians, Lebanese and Syrians, are with the Syrian people. We are with the Syrian government and we will not leave them alone. We will accompany them in this struggle and we are their voice in Latin America.
In addition to expressing political support for Syria, the participants during the 3 days of the Congress will analyze ways to consolidate, expand and develop the bond between the Syrian people and their brothers in Latin America, as well as ways to implement practical actions to help mitigate the impact of Western coercive measures on the lives of Syrians and other oppressed peoples of the world.
These are moments in which we cannot abandon our brothers and sisters. We also condemn the criminal blockade against the Fraternal Republic of Cuba, against the Fraternal Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and against the onslaught of the blockade and this war, which I would not say is a war, but a terrorist attack by the nations sponsored by Zionism and imperialism against the fraternal Syrian people. Our presence here is to demonstrate our unconditional support for just causes, our unconditional support for the Syrian people in their defense of their territory and their integrity.
In this Congress, we say that Syria is resisting and that we, the members of FEARAB, are also resisting so that we can achieve peace, achieve tranquility, and above all, guarantee our national sovereignty, the national sovereignty of Syria and of the oppressed countries of the world.
The Congress will conclude on September 5 with the issuance of a final communique through which it is expected that the 70 representatives of Arab origin coming from different Latin American countries will ratify FEARAB's firm position of support for the just Arab causes headed by the cause of the Syrian people and the struggle of the Palestinian people against the Israeli occupier.
هشام والنوس teleSUR Damascus, Syria.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to re-watch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. A final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. In Zimbabwe, President Emmerson Mnangagwa was on Monday sworn in for a second term after being declared the winner of last month's disputed election, as he promised to lift millions out of poverty. Zimbabweans went to the polls on August 23rd to elect a new president, parliamentarians and local council members, but the main opposition party described the result as a gigantic fraud. In his speech after being sworn in, Mnangagwa pleaded for unity in the aftermath of the polls, promising to revive the ailing economy. Several African leaders, including South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, Mozambique leader Philip Nyusi, and Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi, attended the swearing-in ceremony. Mnangagwa's second term comes amid unrelenting economic challenges, with the Zim dollar having plunged 80% since the start of the year, while international funding remains frozen.
Leadership and the new ZANU-PF government, democracy, good governance, the rule of law, and the politics of tolerance will be entrenched. Our membership and engagement with SADC, the African Union and the United Nations, and other countries in the Committee of Nations remain guided by the principles of mutual respect. In concluding, allow me to once again commend you, the people of our great motherland, Zimbabwe, the people of Onomtapa, for the successful, watershed, peaceful, free, fair, transparent, and credible, harmonized general elections.
Niger's military-appointed Prime Minister on Monday said he believed there is hope of reaching an agreement with the West African bloc ECOWAS, which has threatened to use force to restore civilian rule after the July coup d'etat. The Economic Community of West African States has imposed hefty sanctions against Niger after rebel soldiers on July 26 overthrew President Mohamed Bazoum. Nigerian President Bola Tinubu, who is also the current chairman of ECOWAS, proposed last Thursday a 9-month period like the one his country experienced in the late 1990s. The military rulers so far have not responded to the suggestions, having previously spoken of a 3-year handback period.
French forces are in an illegal position, and I think that the exchanges that are underway should very quickly enable these forces to withdraw from our country. We have received delegations on 4 occasions. We ourselves have made a visit, and we are confident that in a few days' time we will be able to reach an agreement very quickly so that all these measures can be lifted. As a responsible government, we respect the country to come under attack at any time, which is a pity. All the necessary measures have been taken so that we can defend ourselves. You should know that. And I mean every measure, because that would be an unjust war.
On Monday, the head of the International Energy Agency urged the United States and China to set aside the differences and align on climate change. Speaking at the African Climate Summit in Nairobi, Fatih Birol said that international risks are becoming more and more pronounced. Birol added that the world is currently moving too slowly to meet the Paris Agreement goals to limit global warming. The official called on the US and China, the world's 2 biggest emitters, to come together at the COP28 climate talks in Dubai this year and leave aside their geopolitical and economic tensions to seek joint or at least common positions on key issues. We have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.